Hello and welcome to The Drug Trip. This channel is here to feed the curiosity of those who would like to gain an insight to the effects of various drugs and substances through user experiences and stories, with our main goal being to entertain and reduce harm and abuse. We post regular trip reports every few days, so if you do enjoy these, we would really appreciate it if you subscribed. And more importantly, we love to hear our viewers' thoughts, opinions and experiences, so please leave something for us in the comment section and we may use it in a future video. Enjoy and be safe. I'm in my mid-30s and I have tried many different things in my time: LSD, mescaline, mushrooms, etc. I'd say I would call myself semi-experienced with hallucinogenics, which for me were always fun, especially when I was younger. This experience would not be one of those times, however. I must mention that I was trying to make a very light dose just to see what the effects would be. I did not intend to become incapacitated, although I did try to document my experience exactly. As soon as I realised this was an impossibility, here is what I do know. 11 AM. I boiled exactly 10 leaves, around 6 to 8 inches long, in 8 cups of water for 10 minutes. This was the first time with this plant, and I really did not want to overdo it. I took it off the burner and I let it steep for a few minutes. As it was cooling, I made a pitcher of really sweet tea from a concentrated dry tea mix. Then I filled a 20-ounce glass with ice and filled the cup halfway with tea. I then filled the rest of the glass with the leaf brew. I ended up using around only 6 to 8 ounces of the brew. 11:30 AM. I drank all the tea at once. It tasted quite nasty, even though it was heavily sweetened. It only took me a few minutes. I then removed the leaves from the pot, threw them away, and the pot with the remaining brew back on the stove. 11:45 AM. I started to wonder if I had enough, and I thought it would be a good idea to make another glass. So I did, exactly as before, and I drank it. This time, I noticed it was a little hard to get it down, almost like my throat was closing up and making me feel like I was choking. I started to walk back to the couch and realised I felt funny, like my body was drunk, but my mind was perfectly coherent. From this point on, I cannot tell you the exact timing of anything else, because although I didn't realise it yet, I had already lost track of time and reality. At this point, I do feel wasted. I'm sitting on the couch and I noticed things are very strange. Corners of the walls turning into spider webs, very blurry vision. I was watching TV, but I realised I couldn't really see it anymore or understand what anybody was saying. I forgot to mention that I was alone, for now. My wife and daughter were due back later on this afternoon. More on that later. I never intended for this to be so messed up, so I decided to get up off the couch and go to the bathroom. I realised then that it would take a lot of effort, almost Herculean strength just to get off the couch. Finally, I got off the couch and stumbled to the bathroom and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Oh my God. The first thing I noticed is that my eyes were completely dilated. Then I looked down at my hands. I had a hard time focusing, but when I finally did, I realised that they were beet red. Like, really red. Worse than any sunburn that you've ever seen. I looked back up at my face in the mirror and finally came into focus again and realised my face just looked the same. At this point, I'm freaking. My whole body was red, from head to toe. I need to mention at this point, I still felt like I was there mentally. All I noticed were these small physical issues: completely dilated pupils, inability to focus, and red, raw skin. I decided that it would be better if I tried to vomit up whatever I could, so I tried. Only a little came up, more like an acid reflux type of thing. Except now I have a bigger problem. My throat is closing up. Breathing was difficult, and I had dry mouth like I'd never had before. and no amount of water would satisfy, and every time I tried to drink, it felt like I was going to choke. I must mention that although I thought at the time in my mind was still rational, I realised later that I was far from rational. Even still, I calmly went to my computer to look at websites to try and find out if there's any way of reversing the effects that I was having. Somehow I made it to a site, but then I realised I couldn't even read it. Every word on the page was gibberish. It didn't make any sense. I knew the answer was somewhere, but I could not find it. Looking back, I would estimate I spent hours on the computer, staring blindly at the screen. At this time, I thought it was minutes. I went outside to smoke a cigarette and realised I couldn't even see anything outside. It was way too bright, so I came back in quickly. I then thought of how fucked up I was, and that I needed to warn my daughter of the dangers of this drug. She's 12. I went into her room and started to lecture her about the danger of drugs and to never try it and to pick good friends, so on. I remember thinking how good she is being. She sat quietly and listened to me intently. When I thought I had made my point, I got up to leave and realised she had already left the room. I was pissed. How could she just walk away like that? I went out into the living room to complain and realised she wasn't even there. Nobody was there. I was still alone. I remember feeling at this point, I'm in trouble. What have I been doing? I must note that I still had all of the symptoms I had earlier, the most troubling being that I stumbled everywhere I went. My body was beet red still, and choked every time I tried to drink something. I wondered how long it had been. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but when I looked I realised it was a lot longer than I thought. I recall thinking my family would be home soon. I realised later I lost several hours doing God knows. Then they came home, and all of a sudden there she was. My wife, and boy did she look pissed. After what happened earlier, I didn't believe it was actually her. This part of the story is now her recollection of what she came home to. She's a paramedic, by the way. She said she had come home, opened the front door, with smoke coming out of the house. She ran in to notice that the stove was on fire, and there I was, just standing there, looking off into space. She was screaming at me, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I remember saying, "Nothing is wrong," but she says I was mumbling something about she needed to get off my back and go to bed. Then I saw my daughter run by and thought, what's wrong with her? I didn't realise then, but she was scared shitless about what was going on. They then left. Or had they even been there? I wondered. Oh, I think I'll go have a smoke. Then what seemed like a few minutes, they came back. We have pets also, 3 dogs and a cat. When they came home the second time, all the animals were gone and the door was wide open. Now she's really pissed. She screams to me about almost burning the house down, and now all the pets were gone. Sorry, this is quite funny. I told her she was nuts and to get off my back. Then they both left again. Damn, I thought, were they even here? I spent the rest of the night on the computer, mostly. Ladies and gentlemen, do not take drugs. So anyway, I spent the rest of the night on the computer, mostly just staring at the monitor. I woke up the next morning on the couch and had a talk with my wife. I still felt fine, but the worst was over. So this is what really happened. My wife and my daughter came home at around 5:30 p.m. to find the stove on fire. She put out the fire. I must have taken the leaves out of the garbage and tried to make more tea. The stove was scorched. I then drank more tea, but couldn't be certain. She drilled me about what was going on. She said I wouldn't tell her and kept telling her everything is cool. She asked me repeatedly what I was on, but I wouldn't tell her. She didn't realise I was as bad off as I was. She was more mad than anything, so she and my daughter took off and came back at around 8:30 p.m. She found me on the computer and screamed this time to say I lost the pets. Oh dear. I could go on with more details, but I didn't want to miss the point. I could have burned to death in this house. I could have choked to death, heart attack, whatever. I could have easily died. Those things didn't happen to me, but I will tell what did. It has been 2 months since this happened, and I'm still not the same. I hate to say that this is permanent. I hope not, but the truth is, I screwed myself up. My throat is partially closed. I have trouble breathing when I sleep. I cough up liquids sometimes because it tries to go down my windpipe, and I still see things that are not there. But worst of all is my brain. I can't maintain my thoughts. I am a writer, but I can't focus anymore. It took me forever to write this.